This Civic Media podcast is sponsored by UW Organ and Tissue Donation. Organ donations are desperately needed, and now is the right time to become an organ donor. Talk to your family. Get the dot. Save lives. Go to heroicdeed.com.
And good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show, presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. I'm Chad Holmes, joined by former Newman Catholic High School boys basketball coach Jeff Gress, and it's never boring, is it?
If people knew what you had to do just to get the theme music started. Chad's out of breath here running back and forth. I'm flying in through the storm, dropping people off at different houses after basketball practice. We're here to start. This is going to be fun.
It is.
But it's a race, man. It's a race.
It is. So we got a lot to talk about here tonight. We're going to go over what's been going on in high school girls and boys basketball, girls and boys hockey, plus we have a couple of guests as coming up in just a little bit at 6:25. We'll be joined by our coach guest for this week from the 3-0 Wausau East Lumberjacks, Dan Garrett. Team off to a very good start. Had a nice trek over to Eau Claire over the weekend and then earned another win last night. We'll talk about the Lumberjacks with their head man coming up at 6:25. And then at 7:06 tonight, it's our student athlete guest, multi-sport standout, had a terrific high school football season and now off to a great start in high school basketball as well, from the Wausau West Warriors, senior Bennett Matson. He'll be with us at 7:06. So that's all on the plate here tonight on the Big High School Sports Show. But I thought we'd jump right into high school boys basketball because it was the first real big week of boys action, especially after Thanksgiving. A lot of teams were playing back-to-backs in tournaments or events on Friday and Saturday. And looking at the Wisconsin Valley Conference, just a quick rundown on where these teams stand. You got Wausau East at 3-0. Wausau West is 2-0. Merrill 1-0. DC Everest 2-1. Stevens Point 1-1. Marshfield 0-1, Wisconsin Rapids 0-2, and I guess instead of going over every single game, let's talk a little bit about each of these teams. Let's start with Wausau East. They started off playing a couple of games over the weekend in Eau Claire. They defeated Eau Claire North 84-60 on Friday, and then they came back and defeated Superior 59-47 on Saturday. A couple of big games for Jesse Napgezik. He had 19 on Friday, 25 on Saturday. Jaden Garrett had 18 on Friday, and then 14 on Saturday. And Charlie Cayley, couple of double-doubles, a major double-double on Friday, 13 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists, and then 11 points and 12 rebounds on Saturday. And then the Jacks last night, they were victorious, winning at home against New London, 69-51. Napgezik, 31 points, 8 rebounds, Jaden Garrett 10 points. So 3-0. What jumps out about Wausau East in terms of those first 3 games?
Well, it just the stats you led with. I mean, those guys, it's a three-headed monster there with the way those guys do. You know, you got Jaden that's out front, handling the ball, can score from the perimeter, can take it in. You know, nice job of dumping the ball off at that point guard spot. You got Jesse, who's, scorer, got a big frame there, can shoot and elevate over the people. He's a slasher, athletic kid. And then you got Kaylee, who's got some brute force on the inside. Just a big guy, takes up space. And, I was fortunate enough when my nephew played last year to get to see a bunch of those games, and they fed off each other really well, those three. And now they're a year older. And then it's even more dangerous because this is your last year. You can just keep going after what you want. And they've logged a lot of varsity minutes, and Coach Garrett's done a great job with them. And they've just developed into, as a coach, when you go against a team like that, on a given night, different guys can pick it up. So who do you want to stop? And then the other guys, I'm assuming, with after the success they've had, have filled in good as role players and guys that'll do their job, because you need those guys. They're just as equally as important. Who's going to go after the offensive rebounds and get involved? Who's just going to play good, solid defense on their guy? Who's going to log us some hustle points where their faces in the floor diving for loose balls all the time? And they have a nice balance with that. So obviously, the things that stand out for me is that it's a tough guard with that those three guys at the bulk of the points that they can put up, and plus they've been in that system and everybody's comfortable with each other. They've just got a lot of minutes out of each other, from coach to players, back to players to coach, and off to a great start. And it shows in the scores that they've had and how well they did against those first three teams they played.
Also, it's interesting because DC Everest is over there at the same time on the weekend. They went over to Eau Claire, faced the same opponents, and Everest was also 2-0 on the weekend. They defeated Superior 62-56 on Friday. Sam Dassel at 19, Vander Truex 17, Cade Felch 15. And then on Saturday, the Evergreens knocked off Eau Claire North 72-63. Cade Felch and Casey Studeman 22 points each, Truex 12, Xavier Edwards 11. And then last night they faced a very good Ashwaubenon team, came up short, fell 60-57. Evergreens led 35-30 at halftime. Xavier Edwards 17 points. Casey Studeman 12, Cade Felch 10. So 2-1 for Everest. I think a good start. Also, it hurts because Cohen Preby is injured. He is out. He suffered an injury in their state semifinal football game, and that is a massive loss for DC Everest. But still, a good trip to Eau Claire. Good battle against a good team last night. Any thoughts on DCE?
Well, it's never easy when a kid that, I think pretty sure much he's been starting since he was a freshman, or logged a lot of minutes since a freshman, and that you lean on that guy for his leadership, or when you just need a basket, or to kind of bring the guys together on those tough moments that spring up when you get in these close, fun, competitive basketball games. And so that's never easy, but it's also the cool thing about high school sports is the next guy up, and the resiliency of a team to hold it together. And some of those great players that are good on and off the court, they can lead while they're injured too, and help that team maintain and know what they need out of it. And that builds an excitement where you're waiting for your teammate to come back also. But Everest is not a team that's any person to look over either.
No.
They have size and depth and experience there, and it obviously showed, and they played well against Superior and Eau Claire North also. And like you said, Ashwaubenon they're a good basketball team. They got a couple good recruits on that team.
Wausau West, good start. Warriors 2-0. They won their turkey shoot at the field house over the weekend. Warriors defeated Northern Pines 74-65 on Friday night. And then on Saturday, they earned the tournament championship, beating Madison East 67-50. Griffin Lang at 19 Friday, at 20 on Saturday. Bennett Matson at 14 on Saturday. Karji Cooper 10. And Lang really impresses me. And Coach Nate Lemons, we were talking, and again, he does so many things so well. He's a guy that doesn't force anything. Sometimes you almost wish he would take a little bit more of a me first attitude, because he's so good at so many different things. But he is somebody that's been playing for a number of years as well. Bennett Matson, just a tough, really a good team guy as well, and they got a lot of guys around them as well. I think it's a Wausau West team that not a lot of folks have been talking about near the top of that conference, which is exceptionally well, but I think they're going to be a factor in that conference as well.
Yeah, I mean, you got to hats off to them on the start too. You take a team. Pines is kind of one of those teams you don't know quite what you're going to. I mean, they play hard. They had all their guys back.
They shoot, and
they shoot a lot from what I listened to on the broadcast.
And on Friday, I was talking to folks about the game on Friday, and it's a couple of different. One player and one coach was saying, they just would not go away. Every time West was about to pull away, they would hit a three. Well, and they did that on Saturday against Newman as well.
And that's what I'm not. They're not an easy. It's not an easy run. Like, you're just going to roll over them. So they come to play. They make it a good competitive game. So a nice win in the first game. Everybody's kind of getting their feet wet, seeing what works or doesn't work. So there can be some up and down moments where coaches and players are figuring things out. And then I watched. Madison East athletic team plays a little bit different style ball in terms of the way they get up and down the floor. It's a little bit unpredictable in their sets because they really let those players rely on some of their natural abilities that they have. And I thought that West came out and did a good job of owning that game. and keeping it in a certain spot, because the things I've seen out of West over the years is, strong defense, play hard, and sometimes it's a matter of whether that ball's going in the hole. So to get some of that production, have some of that stability of there's a guy to go to when we need a basket, or a guy just that's going to hold the glue together in laying, and that helps out good and gets them off to that good start but before they get into conference play shortly here.
Merrill opened up their season winning at Newman Catholic last night, 74-37. Tyson Ott, 19 points. Eli Burtman, 12. Carter Kaminsky, 10. You had a chance to see that game. What do you think of Merrill?
Just the physicality. Coach Pieper has them playing hard. They don't back away. They don't think they're going to get knocked around, and they want to own the game physically. And I saw kids, on the ball, a couple kids on the ball for loose balls. Their pressure was good. They did a good job trying to make Newman play faster than they had to. But the amount of kids coming hard to open offensive rebounds, the kids taking it hard to the glass, the kids, really not giving you a good, easy look on defense. I think Coach Pieper has them in the right mindset that, whether we win or lose, you're going to not have fun out on the court, and we're going to play our tails off. And that's what I saw in Merrill. Just a lot of hustle and a lot of just on the floor, getting after anything, the 50-50 balls. They want it all the time.
Stevens Point, talk about playing exciting games to begin. A couple of overtime games to start off their season. They opened up losing a double overtime game against Bayport, 85-77 on Saturday, and then last night they went back to overtime again, and this time they were successful, beating Kimberly 72-63 in overtime. Grant Chodenoff, man, really good football player and a really good basketball player. He had 27 in the opener, 20 last night, and multiple double-digit scores. Baraka McAleen had 16 last night, 12 on Saturday. Stevens Point, and again, playing a couple of good teams from the Fox Valley Association, obviously testing themselves before the start of the conference campaign.
Well, and you got to love early two things. As a coach, they stress you out to the mat, those overtime games. But at the end of it, they're just going through them, for lack of a better way to say it, they're a lot of fun too, because they show so much about a team's resiliency. They show so much about where your team can excel as much as where they maybe fall short a little bit if you don't come up on the winning end of it. So I think they're great learning things for the players as well as the coaches when you get into and to have two in a row and get to evaluate a little bit. You probably don't want to keep going on that trend where it's all OT. You want somewhere you come out and control it and win it. But I think it really helps strengthen and toughen you up, especially early on when you get in these tight games, because that's what the playoffs are. That's what some of those great conference games are. So for Spash, testing themselves early, being in a couple of good games and 1-1 to start, and then they're going to still have some tough games before that conference season opens up.
Marshfield, with all those expectations, they lost their opener last night. Appleton East, not a team expected to be at the top of the Fox Valley Association, went to Marshfield, a low-scoring affair, 139-37. Brooks Hinson, one of the standouts for Marshfield and the state of Wisconsin, he had 17 points, but that was an early season surprise, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't. Two things. Well, one of the things I thought about Marshfield last year is how they could kind of assimilate to any style ball. So if the other team's pushing the ball, they feel they can get in the mix and control that game. If the other team is coming down, setting up, slowing things down, Marshfield was okay. They didn't mind how you played, and they were going to combat that just fine. And just that low-scoring affair, you wouldn't expect that out of all those names that they have back, and them expecting to be one of those teams challenging for the top of that conference. So, yeah, and looking at where Appleton East might stand in the Fox Valley Association, it was interesting to me. Not only was it low-scoring, but that they didn't come out on top of that. But again, early non-conference games, you want to win your conference war. You want these games to toughen you up, strengthen you, maybe change your mind on something you're doing well on or not doing well on. And I think that's a little bit of the taste of what Marshfield got. They can figure out some things out of that game.
Rapids lost to Onalaska 60-44 last night. We're going to keep moving because we've already spent way too much time on one conference, so we're going to go right on.
Gotcha.
Rapids 0-2. Great Northern Conference. Mosinee off to a 2-0 start. Antigo off to a 2-0 start. Mosinee defeated New London Friday 57-47. So Mosinee... and then on Saturday, they came back and beat Milwaukee Go-to-Meyer 89-81. Braden Reinke had 22 points, 17 rebounds on Friday, and then he added 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists on Saturday. Treve Stoffel had 26 on Saturday, Sebastian Anderson 24, so a very good start for Mosinee.
Yeah, I thought, we had a couple of known question marks. We talked about all that they lost to graduation, yet, obviously out of their tradition and what they've done in that conference, still being expected to be up at the top, and I thought a nice win. New London, it's a couple of the other area teams. We talked about East playing them. They're always a quality program. Give good games to the teams in our area here, and then to get out of the area with Milwaukee Golden Meyer was a nice game, high scoring affair.
Yeah.
89 points, a lot of points, and so just two nice wins I thought over the Thanksgiving break for Mosinee.
Antigo 71-57 over Ashland, and they also beat Three Lakes last night 65-46, so a good start for Antigo. I guess I'm going to open up for the rest of the conference. What do you think of anybody in the GNC? Anything stand out? Some
unanswered question marks with Medford yet after losing those guys over the last couple of years that put the ball in the basket, and Robbie and some of those other guys. So nice win with Chippewa Falls. They usually come over and battle pretty hard. And, Rhinelander jumped out, big win back on November 22nd, kind of laid dormant. So, not a lot other than seeing kind of Pines hold true because they said they got some starters back.
I think they're a good-looking team to me.
Yeah, they're going to be a team that's that's the team in that conference.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to compete and they're going to steal a couple they shouldn't, and then they're going to make it more interesting. So that's Pines kind of stood out for me as kind of showing me a little bit more than they were predicted to be right away out of the get-go.
Merriwood South, not a lot of action. Auburndale and Stratford 1-0, Marathon 0-1, Assumption 0-2, Newman 0-3, and Edgar's yet to play. Obviously, you had a chance to see Newman Catholic. I had a chance to see Newman Catholic facing bigger schools. I mean, obviously, I think you can, and they're also, again, as we found out last week with Quincy Fender out, still a bit shorthanded. I guess we'll start with Newman. What did you think about Newman last night?
Well, they're in a tough spot, as any coaching program that gets put in these situations are, where your lineup changes a little bit. Starts off with you're missing one guy waiting for him to come back from a football injury. You go in a couple tournament games and you have two more guys dinged up and the other guy hasn't come back yet. It changes your complexion. At a smaller school, as well as it is just for a team in their rotation, it's a big deal to have certain guys, and you rely on those guys. And the injuries, sicknesses, all that stuff really can change the complexion of a team fast. And I think Newman's still trying to figure that out because they haven't been healthy yet. And I think they have a nice 1-2 punch in Fender and Piffner, and it really shows that they take the pressure off. And from an opposing coach's standpoint, it's easy to go after one guy, and like we talked about early on with these, it's hard to go after multiple guys that could put the ball in the basket. It just totally changes that complexion of the defense, and when multiple guys are rolling, going off, it's tough to defend. So I think Newman's still trying to figure out. It'll be a good test for them against Athens, who's not middle of the pack up in the Merriwood North.
And we'll have that tomorrow night here on 98.9 WXCO, so you can tune in. Auburndale and Stratford, nice road wins. Auburndale in OT against Colby, 70-62. Stratford beat Neelsville on the road, 64-52. And Marathon last night fell to Regis, a team expected to maybe win a conference championship in the Clover Belt. Regis went over to Marathon. Again, a Marathon team that lost an incredible amount of production from last season, 59-49. Any thoughts on those three teams that are perennial powers in that Merriwood South?
I think, Marathon reloads off their JV. People tend to forget that they kind of fill those spots back in, and they have a couple guys, and the guys that I think they're now juniors in Wolfel and Thurs that have logged a lot of minutes. So I think they're going to be all right in the realm of their conference, and they're still going to be a team, maybe not at the caliber they've always been, but still a team that's going to be very good. And Auburndale, Stratford just kind of, this is why this is a guessing game, and who's going to win out in this conference. They're just kind of chugging along. They do enough to finish out that game to get those W's, and that's the clawing that you see in this conference. I was impressed that Stratford's leading scorers putting up 25 a game, so that's kind of out of the niche of what Stratford usually does, where they have kids putting up just kind of barely hitting double digits. I don't know if you want me to jump to the next game. The one that surprised me was the 0-2 out of Assumption in their own Cranberry Classic.
Yeah.
I know Columbus Catholic is not the same state champions that they were a year ago, but still a formidable opponent every time you play them.
48-44 Columbus over Assumption.
So a little bit of a tight one, and then they turn around
and Nakusa 59, Assumption 47.
Nakusa, I heard had a very athletic group of kids, which it's just interesting to see how these things play out. You wonder, is Assumption at full strength? Are they missing anybody? Are they just, again, still trying to get their feet wet, work through things, figure things out? So, some surprising games as much as some consistencies with the Stratford and Auburndale win.
Let's quickly go through the Merriwood North. Anything you want to talk about there? Athens 0-1. They lost to Owen Withy 71-54. Prentice and Phillips 2-0. Abbey 1-0. Anything in particular? Because it's still very early.
Yeah, tough to tell a little bit. Athens, I saw some of the highlights with the Owen Withy game. It was in check and it was competitive, and towards the end, kind of the Owen Withy got a couple extra buckets that separated that score to be 71-54. For me, too early. I'm curious to see, though, that Rib Lake was the top of that. Athens was doing solid in that conference, and now Phillips and Prentice are creeping up to see how that plays out, if they can maintain that, or are they going to wail on each other all year and you're going to have a mess. I like that excitement of a conference.
CWC North very early. Everybody's played one game, and the team we keep a close eye on is Northern Lutheran. They fell to Spencer 84-63. And again, so often they play these non-conference games against bigger schools. Spencer would fall into that grouping. We'll have to wait and see, I think, once the conference gets underway.
Yeah, they hit Gresham up on Thursday, but then again, they challenged themselves, jump out into one of the bigger teams. They'll see Allman Bancroft on Monday. So still you're waiting to see what'll happen there when they dive into their own conference.
And CWC East, an actual conference game. Wittenberg-Burnham, with the only conference game, defeated Menominee Indian 67-56. Amherst looking strong again. They tend to be fairly solid, usually 2-0. Bonduelle, who's been so good in so many sports, 1-0. Again, not many games so far in the CWC East, but again, Wittenberg-Burnham was always going to be kind of there, and I think Bonduelle is going to be there as well. And Amherst always finds a way as well.
Yeah, and Wittenberg, I'm excited to see with the guard play that they have.
Jet.
Yeah, I know you love to say his name, but he gets 20 points a game, and they have some nice other components around that are a good supporting system for him. So I think they want to make one of their years where they stay atop that conference consistently throughout the year.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a timeout and then come back with our first guest. Again, coming up in the second hour, we'll have our student-athlete guest, Bennett Matson from Wausau West High School. He'll be with us at 7:06. But coming up next, we will talk to the head boys basketball coach of the Wausau East Lumberjacks, off to a 3-0 start, and one of those teams expected to battle in a very competitive top half of the Wisconsin Valley Conference this season. We'll talk to Lumberjack head coach Dan Garrett coming up in 1 minute. This is the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. More to come here on 98.9 WXCO.
What's your idea of winter fun? If it's hitting the trails after a fresh snowfall and you're thinking new snowmobile, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. If you're thinking new four-wheel drive vehicle to get you to the downhill slopes or the cross-country trails, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. Quick, easy loan applications, friendly lenders, and great rates make CCU the lending leader in financing fun. If your idea of winter fun isn't in the snow, maybe hitting the highway in a new motorhome is the way to go. Just give CCU a call. Financing for motorhomes and winter getaways. When you think fun, think Clover Belt Credit Union. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Call CCU for your great rate financing. Dial 715-842-5693 or apply online or from your smartphone. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. And on the Civic Media app. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. Time for our coach guest for this week. And making the short trek from Wausau East High School, head boys basketball coach of the Lumberjacks, Dan Garrett. And Coach, glad to have you back.
It's good to be here.
Absolutely. And again, very early in the campaign, but you have to feel pretty darn good to go over to Eau Claire on the weekend and earn a couple of W's. And obviously as well, those are teams that are, in terms of higher divisions. That's also a good thing in those non-conference. And then last night to get a win over New London. I guess overall, the first three games, what stood out about your team?
Honestly, defense. I know over the last few years, it's been questionable. Our defense has been questionable. I think someone once said, Wausau East doesn't care how much they score on them as long as they score more than you. And I think at one point in time, maybe that was true. But we've really put a lot of focus on our defense in the offseason. And, as you've seen in the scores, we've really been doing a good job.
And how fun has how's this process been? I mean, the group you're with now is just because your son's in the class. You know,
Right.
you just, I think, you know, it's a different. I don't know. I find I've always had good relations with the kids I work with, but there's also this special moment of the kids you get to work with within your son. You know, you're just around them more because sometimes they're at your house, and sometimes you follow them around to different things. So, how cool is that? I mean, I like we were just talking off air for a minute. It's kind of bittersweet. You know, son graduates, but you've been around it, and it's just cool. I think.
When we tipped up Friday against Eau Claire North, I looked out there and they looked like men, and I'm so used to them looking like little boys, and they look like men, and that hit me then that, hey, this is their senior year, you know. So it is pretty cool to kind of watch their development. I've been around these kids since they were in the 3rd and 4th grade, so you know, a long time, and a lot of battles, a lot of ups and downs, and it's really nice to kind of see them to be where we are now, because you know, a lot of these guys have got a lot of varsity experience. Yeah. They've played a lot of games. I think we were talking about it yesterday, and they've probably got over 200 games together, you know, playing together. So and we're coming down to the last, you know, 25 or 26, right? So it goes fast, and I'm just trying to enjoy a lot of it. I'm staying after practice and helping guys shoot a little bit more than I did before, and you know, just doing a little bit more and trying to take in the moment more.
Those guys that I think you're talking about, as you said, you know, and it's been a process, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of what you started at Newman with those young guys, and ultimately you left, but missed when they got the gold ball. But at the same time, there were bumps in the road, and you had to deal with a lot of those bumps as those kids grew, you know, as young men into basketball players, and now you've got a group that has grown together as well. How much importance for the group that's back this year was the success that last year had, that you took the steps forward, and now to be able to build on that, but having that success is something that you can learn as well, correct?
Oh, 100%. I think last year's team, I think we came into the season not necessarily with a whole lot of expectation. I think we had expectation internally, but we didn't have expectation, you know, in the media, you know. So I think we kind of flew under the radar for a lot of the season, and now we're coming into this season, I think, with a little more, you know, media attention and those types of things. So it's a different approach this year. I think we're focused on our goals, and I think you know, last year I think we were trying to get them to convince them that, hey, you can do this, and this year I think they feel like, you know, we can do this. We can compete in the conference. We can, you know, go far in the playoffs. So, you know, I think it's been good that way.
And you know, Chad asked me in the opening segment, like, you know, just what you think of East. I just think, from what I was able to watch this year, I was able to stream one of the games. It's just a tough guard. If those main key cogs are being focused, what are you going to take away? I mean, because you've got three guys that, on top of other guys that contribute, that just take so much pressure off each other, but played. You know, they're a little bit. Each one's built a little different in the style of ball they play. So it's like, as an opposing, what do you want to defend if we're all rolling? And if you take a couple out, I mean, that's got to be a great feeling to go in, because you have guys that a lot of experience. They know how to put the ball in the basket. They've been through battle tested, and now they have the expectations of what they want to achieve. That's a dangerous mix. So I mean, I got to imagine that's a lot of fun, and a lot of great things going on there.
You know, the weird thing about those three is last year the three of them never played well together. It would be two of them, and the other guy would not really play well. And really, these first three games this season, they've really played well together, and they've really done a good job of playing off of each other, and really setting up each other more so than they did a year ago. And I think because they understand the game a little bit more now, we're approaching it different. Where, you know, hey, you know, if Jesse hit 2 threes in a row, we probably should get him another shot, right? Or if Jaden hit 2 threes in a row, we should probably get him another shot. Where last year it was like, I'm open, you know. So I think they're understanding the game a little bit better this year. And you know, we were trying to win. We were playing against Superior, and we were trying to kind of close the game out. And for the last 5 minutes, I didn't call a play. You know, and I realized, you know, I got guys out there who can take care of the ball. They understand the situation, and we ended up, you know, winning that game, you know, pretty handily. So I trust all three of those guys. But, you know, I think those three guys get a lot of, you know, notoriety. But there's other guys on our team too that you know, make the wheels turn as well.
We're talking to Dan Garrett, head basketball coach on the boys' side for the Wausau East Lumberjacks here on 98.9 WXCO. The first game against North, you had a 1-point lead at halftime and then outscored them, 48-25 in the second half. I wanted to, it's always interesting when things are going really well, maybe things are not going quite as well. What was the difference between the first half and the second half? And obviously it's the first game of the season. That's one of the aspects of it. But at the same time, to go over there in their gym and outscore them 48-25 in the second half was very, very impressive. What were the big keys to that?
Well, there was some history there, right? We lost our last game there. We played our sectional semifinal there and lost there, so it was kind of cool to go back. We had the same locker room and those types of things. We went into the locker room up one or down one. I don't remember. Yeah. And I didn't panic. There was no panic. I felt like we were playing like it was the first game, and they were nervous and trying not to make mistakes. I didn't yell or scream in the halftime. We kind of went in there and just talked and said, "Hey guys, if we do the things that we know we should be doing." Getting out and running, getting out and passing lanes and making them go faster than they want to, we're going to be fine. Jesse then got early foul trouble, early second half, and I think he sat for, from 15 minutes to about 6 minutes. And we were up 8, and when he got back in, we were up 18. So, it was a good run, and it was the maturity of those guys really got us over the top.
And what just looking at your team over 3 games now you get, I don't know if it's a considered a break. You get a little breathing space because you finished up last night, and then I think you don't play till Saturday, right? Yeah. So things that you really liked about your team over those first 3 games, and now things like, hey, we want to hit on this in practice because I want to deepen this so that we're ready to be the team I think we can always be and keep progressing as I think we can always do.
So New London hit a lot of 3-pointers on us last night, and so we weren't doing a very good job closing out and having our hands up, so we did a lot of work with that today. And then offensively, I think we were a bit sluggish. It was our 3rd game in 5 days, and it's early in the season, and we got some guys battling sickness and those types of things, and we just didn't have our best. But to still win the way we did, not having our best, kind of shows what type of team I think we can be. I think we're just kind of scratching the surface of where that is.
Let's talk a little bit about this conference as you get set to delve into that pretty soon. I'm sure you've been around it a long time. We've watched it, been around it for a long time. It's been a long time since it's been this strong. I mean, this really is a really good year to keep a close eye on Wisconsin Valley Conference boys basketball. How do you look at it? You've obviously had a lot of time to kind of digest it during the off season. What are you seeing in the WVC this year?
I think every coach probably will come in here and say this, but there is no off night, and it really isn't. A team that could finish at the bottom, you could end up losing to, if you're at the top or whatever it is. And it's going to be really competitive. And I feel like the conference champion this year might have 1 or 2 losses, right? I think the last few years, it's been an undefeated conference champion. I think they could have 1 or 2 losses and still be a conference champion. So, we're preaching that to our kids. You don't have to be perfect every night, but you do have to go out and give, maximum effort every night.
And you talked about, again, when you hear East, you know Jaden and Jesse and Charlie, and you hear about those guys. But I know, like you mentioned, there's other kids, and they make a big difference, and they fill in the parts and pieces that we need to be. And have this, you don't get 3-0 that way if they're not.
Correct.
So who are some of those kids that are stepping up, whether it was due to graduation last year and fitting in the pieces that you like or see?
Well, let's mention the other 2 starters, Robbie and Julie, 6'6" junior. Who's going to be a good player. It works his tail off and does a really good job for us on the glass. And then Teddy Schlenwine is another kid, more of a wing and a really good defender. We put him on Daly last night, and Daly had 2 points or 3 points in the second half. And I think he might have even surprised himself about how good of a defender he was. So, those 2 round out our starting lineup. And then off the bench, Davis Winter, who had a really good football season, is a really good basketball player as well. Jay Vander Sanden, and then also Miles Casey is a kid for us who can spread the floor.
And I know we talked about this too, and I always think it's cool when coaches, you have your sport love, but you're willing to give your other time to be around the kids and expand those connections because, again, right, now working with kids in school systems. It's about those connections, and it's also at the end of the day about what they are in 20 years when you run into them. It's all cool. So how big a deal is it for when you get to be part of that football program and help out and do that and do the coaching and be around these kids even? I mean, it's got to be a blast.
It's awesome.
It's cool for them, cool for you. It reciprocates.
It's awesome, and I appreciate Coach Kramer for giving me the opportunity to be on his staff.
And then they paid you back too, and he helps you out.
Exactly. Now he's on my staff. He does a great job with the football program, and I'm just kind of there as a buffer for him if he needs some help with some things. But he's the man, he's the guy, and I appreciate him giving me the opportunity to kind of be around the kids. Out of the sport that I typically coach them in, I can kind of see them in different situations and different types of adversity, and then I can kind of take that and learn from it. And when I'm trying to motivate them or whatever it might be in basketball, I can kind of go back to, hey, remember that time in practice, or remember that time in the game, or whatever, in the football game, or whatever. So, I honestly, going into football, I thought, I love football. Don't get me wrong. I thought, I'm going to do it, and I like it, but I've learned to love it, and I'm having a really good time, being a coach, football coach.
When you look at what your basketball program did last year and the football program did this fall, it's been a while for Wausau East. What has it been like to have that kind of success, being able to make a run last year on the hardwood, and then being able to do something that East football hasn't done in such a long time? What has that meant for the Wausau East community that you're so much a part of?
It's been awesome. When I got here, in 2020, the program wasn't where it is today, football or basketball, and I'm not saying it was me, on either side, but really the kids' commitment over the last 5 years that I've been there, and the coaches that have committed to the kids is what turned it around. As coaches, we really do a lot to try to make sure these kids understand, we're here for you, whether it be at the school or even outside of school. And I really think those connections is what breeds, success. And when you make connections like that, those connections last a lifetime.
Well, and even how big is the youth program? Sometimes people don't always realize the amount of time you have to put into that, because that's a big deal with those kids. I mean, a compliment to you guys. One of the things I hear, and I'm not trying to knock any other school for the reference, but people are like, these kids are always down at the Y. I'm walking the track, I see all those East kids shooting around. So, I mean, that's cool. So just that, some of the youth stuff that you put your time and effort in, how big has that been?
Yeah, huge. If you don't have a youth program, you don't have a high school program. You really have to dig deep and make sure you're hitting up practices and things like that, and really encouraging those guys. But I think you see a lot of East kids down at the Y, because you see a lot of high school East kids down at the Y. My son's down there all the time. Yeah. Jesse's down there all the time. So I think those kids see, 2 or 3 of the best players on the team out down there. So I better be down there shooting too if I want to play.
When you look at your schedule this year, we talk about the first 3 games, again, good opponents. How do you feel about your non-conference? Because here in the run-up to the new year, you have 2 conference games and then a lot of non-conference games. How do you feel about the schedule? Do you feel like this is a good schedule for the group they have this year?
Yes, I think we're going to challenge ourselves in the non-conference this year. Not that we didn't last year. I think it was more of a mix last year. Right. And this year, I think going up to Eau Claire North and playing our first game on their floor, in a place where we lost last year, that's adversity, right? And then having to, come back and do it again the next day against a pretty good superior team. So, I'm happy where things are, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface by where we can go.
It's got to be fun to go to Marathon next week, because they've been such a good program. Being here in Central Wisconsin, I mean, I know that when I saw that's a cool matchup. I imagine a lot of folks around your program and even around Marathon, that's going to be a fun non-conference game, won't it?
Yeah, I took a lot of losses to Marathon when I was over in Newman.
So did he, though.
I did too, right?
They're fantastic.
I totally can relate to it. So you want to win over there because you think of it. But go ahead.
They're a fantastic program, and obviously they're at state seems like every other year, and Coach Jacobson does a really good job. So it's going to be a test for us no matter what. Doesn't matter what the divisions are. I'm pretty sure those guys are eager to take down big bad Wausau East, right? So, but we got some family ties there too. We got Robbie and Julie, who I mentioned. His uncle was a coach over at Marathon, and Coach Wolfel coached at East for a long time when I was an assistant. So it's always fun to kind of go against your friends and things like that.
And going forward, who's your first conference game against? Do you remember?
Merrill.
Yeah, Merrill not next Friday.
And I know, so it's I like the way the Valley. I like this. You get your feet wet. You learn a lot about your team in these non-conference games. You test yourself. You push yourself, and then it seems like kind of like a college football team. Then you gear up for that conference schedule. Whereas some of these other conferences, bam, out of the first night, we're right into it.
Yeah, I saw that. Just a couple teams. Yeah.
I kind of like it that way because then you can evaluate it. Do you find it's hard because you go game to game and you're looking at it, but are you always dabbling into, we got Merrill, let's go see what they did, right? And as well as maybe.
And let me throw it in there, you got Marshfield that week after that. So obviously.
You guys are looking like 6 games ahead right now.
I know.
Well, and I get it because it's next game up. I was just curious, the Valley, like you said, you don't have a night off. So any preparation, whatever it is for coach mentally, for players mentally, you want that extra edge. But looking ahead at that, do you check out in the conference a little bit already, even though you got all these non-conference games ahead of time? As an honest, valid question.
I've looked at scores. Yeah. I've looked at games and things like that, and I think the games that we're playing before that game, we're trying to prepare ourselves for that game. Yeah. So the conference season is important. So we're using our non-conference games to prepare for that. So I'm not necessarily looking towards that game right now, but we're using the games that we have before that to get ready for that.
For your team to get as far as it got last season and then further, what's the biggest question mark that maybe you have, the thing that maybe you right now you're going to have to be better at as you get into the 2025 portion of the schedule? Is there something specific that you're working on to try to get better and better as we get into the weeks and the months of this season? It's a very long season in the winter.
Slowing down offensively. We got a couple big guys, and we're just so used to going fast that, and so are the big guys. They're used to going fast too. But we got a 6'5" guy in Charlie Cayley there, and a 6'6" guy in Robbie and Julie, who we should probably touch in the post every now and again, right? If not every possession. So that's one thing offensively that we're working on, and that'll come. I'm not necessarily worried about that. And just defensively, making sure that we're finishing possessions with rebounds. They get one shot, and that's it. So those are the things we're really focusing on right now, and it's really early in the year. We're just trying to get better.
Be a little selfish on this one, okay? What have you enjoyed about building the program? Because you can see the process. You come in, you got young guys playing right away when you take over. You got to, kind of harness that. Freshmen, sophomores, these guys, they always got more time, they think. And time moves, and now you're already talking, and you're talking about graduation with your son and his buddies. Mm-hmm. And you've just seen a good process where you built it, and it got to a point where we were very proud of last season, but now we want to go farther. Now you're hungry for more with this next group. How has that been, and what do you think has been maybe some keys in that? What I'm saying is be a little selfish on it, be a little proud of this moment, because you built East basketball there into being that opponent that people should be worried about playing, somebody that people want to see, given that respect, all that stuff.
So I appreciate that.
What do you think?
I was actually talking to an assistant New London coach the other day, and he said, you finally got old. And I didn't know if he was talking about me or he was talking about the team. But he was talking about the team, and these young guys have played for so long. But honestly, the process has all been a blur. My head's been down working so hard to try to get to where we are today, that I'm actually finally now just kind of putting my head up to say, okay, maybe we are a tough opponent for some people now, right? The best moment, I would say, would be winning the regional championship, right? We practiced walking up the ladder all week with fake scissors.
Got to instill it.
Yeah, and to actually see us doing that, that was maybe the moment where I looked and I was watching my son walk up the ladder, and that's the moment where I said, I think we finally turned it around. Yeah. And there was a lot of work, and there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of sad nights when you come home from losing a game. But when you look back on it now, it was all worth it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Anything else?
I'll give you the prop. We'll go one more sentimental question. How much of a blast? I know when I work with my son, I see other coaches coach their kids, and until you do it, it's never easy. You could probably never be right because there's no happy medium there. So you're too hard. You look like you play fate, whatever it is. People are always judging that. What's been the best part about that for you getting to work with Jaden all these years since, you talked off air about slowing it down. It's a blast. I'm trying to take in every moment. I know I'm on borrowed time with this coach son father relationship because he's going to graduate. So what's been so awesome about that?
Honestly, just being able to be with him every day. And I'm sure there was a time where he's like, my dad's always around, right? But I think now he knows I'm going to be there. Just being able to be with my son while he's doing something that he loves is not all the parents get to do that. Right.
And he gets to continue, right?
He's going to get to continue doing that in college next year, which will be awesome as well. So, because he's worked his whole life for that.
Yeah.
So, I'm very, very proud of my son, and it could be difficult, but him and I have done a good job of setting boundaries. And there was last night we were in the huddle, and I was yelling at him about something, and he said, "I got it, coach." And I kind of paused for a second because I'm used to him calling me dad,
right?
But at school he's calling me coach. So he knows what the boundaries are as well, and so does the rest of the team. And sometimes they give him a hard time about it, but he's always a good sport too. Yeah. So it's just been a joy to being able to coach my son, and I'm very proud of him.
Well, when we get him in that chair later in the year, we'll find out if the answers are quite the same.
I'm sure he will.
I'm sure it will as well.
Things about me.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, congrats on a good start. Congrats on the season last year. Best of luck as this long winter road really gets going. But appreciate your time.
I appreciate it.
Head coach of the Wausau East Lumberjacks, Dan Garrett. We'll take a timeout, come back. We'll start talking a little girls hoops, and then we'll have our student athlete guest after the top of the hour, Bennett Matson of Wausau West. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer, and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. And on the Civic Media app. Again, thanks to Wausau East head coach Dan Garrett for joining us here tonight. And again, Bennett Matt will be joining us in a few minutes. We don't have a lot of time here in this segment, so let's jump right in here to girls. We'll start with some of the girls. We'll get back to it a little bit later on. But Wisconsin Valley Conference, you got a rough go of it so far. You got 3 teams that are 2-2. No conference games so far. All non-conference. Spash, Everest, and Merrill, all 2-2. Got Rapids at 1-3. Marshfield and East at 0-2. Wausau West, tough start for the Warriors. They're 0-5. I guess, we can say that for DC Everest, it's been an improvement because they had such a struggle winning any basketball games. They have now won twice. We talked to Coach Bolus about it. They started off with the one win, but then they lost a couple. Pretty close games, low-scoring games, 39-33 against Rhinelander. Grace Sandquist, 11, Kirsten Hall, 10, and then they fell to Crandon, who's a pretty good basketball program in the Northwoods, 39-30, but then they came back and won last night against Chippewa Falls, 43-24. So I would say the positive right now in the Valley has to be DC Everest.
Well, right, yeah, I mean, just not trying to knock records and stuff. There hasn't been that flash of what you want to see in terms of owning some of those non-conference games. You want to see better win-loss total. But for DC, Coach Bullis, when she talked about some of the things she wanted to see out of her team, and things they wanted to build on. And I think one was just being competitive. And
they
then
certainly have been.
Yeah, and then getting over the hump with some of the improvements they're trying to do in practice and the attitudes they're trying to tweak to understand that we can be successful, we can find. And that takes some time for kids to really buy in and believe it. And you see some of that on the early ongoings with, Rhinelander has Clark, who can score in bundles, and they had some success and took them 33-39 and 30-39, like you said, against Crandon. And one of the question marks that Coach Bullis, if I remember correctly, was just where's the baskets going to come from? We want some consistency, and they don't have a double. If the stats are right, they don't have a double-digit score yet, and just looking to put that in, they're not scoring huge amounts, but obviously doing something right on defense.
They're not giving up many points,
right? So now you just keep coaches do. You tweak it. You find what's going to work. You make some minor adjustments, and it's that constant chess match. So I think some positives there for them, and you want to see it out of them. You hate when you're watching teams get, bullied around and bashed in the win-loss column, and you like to see them have success as soon as they possibly can. And Everest is starting to show glimpses of that.
Merrill moved to 2-2. You saw them last night, 49-43 against Newman Catholic. What jumped out with the Merrill Blue Jays? I see Kayla Clairvaux had 25 points. Takia Sell 14 for the Blue Jays, so they combined for 39 of the 49. So obviously, two players were kind of the big focus for Merrill last night.
Yeah, and I ran into Coach DeBoer, so we're talking a little things here and there on the sidelines during the boys' game. And
I was gonna say, were you talking during the girls' game?
No,
I know you're always there on the side there, right next to the bench.
Yeah, no, I'm in the area where old coaches go to
exactly.
Yeah. But he, one of the things we mentioned, he got my aunt who graduated, big key cog in what they did with scoring and leadership and all that stuff. So they're kind of finding their role a little bit, looking for some consistencies before they jump into their conference play. It looked like right now a team that wants to put it inside more. They want to get in the post. That's where one of their scorers, one of the ladies you listed, was one of their post players, and she put up some good numbers moving around down there in the post. I think one of the things they're going to want to make more of a strength and do better is hit from the outside. And Coach DeBoer even mentioned that we didn't shoot well from three-point land and things like that, because better teams have that the teams that are more consistently winning and doing a better job, I should say, have that inside-out game. They can hurt you from both areas and rely on one and the other and get a good balance. So I think that's something that stood out for me was their inside play, their willingness to know that that's a strength and they want to get it in there, and they played hard. And when Newman came back a little bit on him, it was just some extra turnovers and quick shots. So, it's these first games that they're trying to figure that stuff out of what style ball they exactly got to play.
Let's talk a little bit of GNC before the top of the hour, because last night was perhaps the biggest game so far early in the campaign. And Mosinee went up to Minocqua and gave Lakeland all they could handle. But the T-Birds win 45-42. Congratulations to Taylor Jersley. She hit the 1,000-point mark in her career. She had 29 points, 29 of the 42 scored by Mosinee. She cracks the 1,000-point mark very quickly in her high school career. Did not see any of the numbers for those bigs for the Lakeland T-Birds, but to go up there early in the season for Mosinee, it gives them, I would say, confidence for the second meeting when Lakeland comes to Mosinee later in the season.
Yeah, if you go on somebody's home court and
especially a team like that.
Yeah, and a team that's predicted to win. They've got Wilmette, who puts up over 30 points a game, as well as some other good supporting casts that can put the ball in the basket. I think we talked. Mosinee has a new coach this year. Little things that they're trying to work out and make better from game to game on everything. Just from that transition, I should say, from one coaching staff to the next. I think that's a good competitive omen when you go up there and you're right in that game. And we don't know if it came down to free throws or a couple key turnovers at the end. Did they have the lead at any point? I would say a reflection of the score is a good thing for when Lakeland comes down, because it shows that they can tweak things and get over the hump and beat them.
And Christina Wilmette usually scores close to 45 herself. To hold that group to 45 points on their home court, I think, for Mosinee is, again, a very impressive performance. Another conference game last night, 63-58, Rhinelander defeated Medford. So Rhinelander is now 4-1 overall, 1-0 in the conference. And Tomahawk beat Antigo 58-34.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
And welcome back. It's hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Don't forget that if you miss any of the program or any of our programs, that it's also available as a podcast. Just go to civicmedia.us or WXCO.FM. Click on the show's page and then just follow along until you get to the Big High School Sports Show. And you can also subscribe as a podcast on Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. And at the top of the second hour, we always have our student-athlete guest. And this week, on this chilly Wednesday evening, very happy to welcome into studio Wausau West senior Bennett Matson. And Bennett, thank you for popping on over.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll get you a little bit closer towards that mic. Thank you very much. It's basketball season, but I got to ask you about the football season because I had a really solid campaign for Wausau West, made it to the playoffs, wide receiver for the Wausau West Warriors. What was your takeaway on your football season? Because, again, you became a real big target on the outside. You had to battle a couple of bumps and bruises along the way, but what was your takeaway on your senior season on the gridiron?
Yeah, well, going into it, my main goal was just to have fun, and at the end of the season, I did accomplish that goal. I had fun, and I did. I sprained my ankle at the beginning of the season. That was
right away.
Yeah, that was
the scrimmage.
Yes, right in the scrimmage. That was difficult to get through, but I was able to make it back for week 1 against Superior, and just every week I fought through that. And we did have some quarterback troubles with injuries. Had to go through 3.
Yeah,
and
actually 4.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, and So I'd say it was a great season, and I had a lot of fun, and definitely had to battle some adversity, but overall very positive.
I don't know if high school athletes think about this or not. Is it important to be a multi-sport athlete? I think from a coaching standpoint, from a spectator of sports, I think it is. I think there's a lot of things to be gained by playing more than one sport if you're able to do that. Do you think about that at all? Is that a big deal to you, the different trainings, the different styles, jumping from season to season, or massive commitments in your time in your daily lives?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a big transfer of just athleticism from sport to sport. I think, like for example, just going up and getting the ball in football, and it really translates over to just going at the rim in basketball, and just a lot of those different key elements in track. I mean, track you're just getting fast, so obviously it's going to help you throughout other elements of your sports, and just like creating friendships and getting involved and just all those connections you can make through those sports with other kids from other schools too is just so important, and it's going to help you down the road too.
You had your share of highlight film catches, and I think you hit it on the head. Some of the skills going after the basketball you used on the football field, where there was a lot of one-on-ones or even one-on-twos, where you had the ability to get your body in the right position to have an opportunity to make the catch, and then sometimes it felt like it was like a one-handed grab as well. So was there a direct connection between maybe some of your basketball experiences from last season that allowed you to make a few of those really spectacular catches during the football season?
For sure. Last year throughout the basketball season, Coach Lemons really harped on me to go strong at the basket, and throughout the summer and our 7-on-7 football league, I kind of just translated that over, and I go, Jack, throw me the ball, and I'm going to go get it. And, it translated back into the fall. And, just like you said, someone's on me, and I was just going to go get that ball.
Well, and then, sliding into the basketball season here. You guys had
couldn't wait to slide into the basketball season.
Well,
you Mr. Basketball,
with, yeah.
I tell you.
I'll go. You want to transition or you want me to?
No, you can transition.
Okay. All right. So sliding into, I think it's a great idea when coaches and players and you give up a little bit extra holidays to play these days, because there's teams that stay dormant and don't go into that schedule. So I think it's always neat when teams are hosting a turkey tournament or a Christmas tournament. Those types of things are a lot of fun. So, but I also think you get to learn a lot early on about your team. So, Chad will get into more some of the games you played, but what were some of the things in this early schedule here that when you got to, participate in the games over there at West, that you thought, well, hey, this is great. This is stuff we're doing really well early on. And then maybe here's something that I really want to see us improve on and get better from a player's standpoint.
Yeah, well, I think our team chemistry just as a whole is really, really good right now. We're all just a very tightly wound unit. And I think definitely early on in the season, like Dan Garrett said before, we just got to slow things down. And I think that goes for a lot of teams early on in the season. Just kind of get some of our actions going and really get the best looks that we can on the glass. And, I'd say those are probably the two things that we've taken away the most out of those first 2 games, the Turkey Shootout.
Yeah, those 2 games that you had Northern Pines on Friday and then Madison East on Saturday. And I have to say, watching Pines on Saturday and then just seeing what they did last night, that looks like a pretty good basketball team. They stuck around, and I was talking to a couple of folks. I wasn't at the game Friday, that there was about 10 times you guys could have put them away, but they would always find a way to make a 3-point basket and stick around. And then Madison East, who had put up so many points, 94 on Friday, and then you guys were able to just shut them down. I don't think they scored for the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game. What did you find out about your group in those 2 games? Because I don't think those were 2 pushovers to start off the season. You actually did a lot of really good things. What did you find out about you and your teammates in those 2 games?
Well, versus Northland Pines, we definitely had to find some resilience. We had to play through some adversity. A lot of those guys had really nice games from Pines, and we just had to try and shut them down, get on the glass, and force them to only have 1 shot on the offensive side. And then when we were on offense, we just had to find those good looks and make sure that we made our shots and finished at the rim. And then Madison East, they put up a lot of points against Newman, and we went into the game just knowing that they were athletic and gonna get to the rim, and we had to pack the box and get help inside. And then when they kicked it out, we had to get a hand up and close out on the shooters. And I'd say we executed pretty well and were able to shut them down. And we got in some runs, and they put their heads down, and we were able to come away with a win.
And, again, spectators have sometimes the most fun because they can make a judgment call, make a statement. They don't have to be held accountable for it. So the things when we hear about West basketball is not a lot of size, right? Not a lot of things in the middle. And I've had teams where you've had an undersized center, you got kids that'll play hard in the middle, and they're maybe playing out of position because they'll do the job for you. What's been kind of your takeaway since you said, I got to go get to the rim, I got to get inside? They're kind of fight in the middle a little bit for the size of our team. How did anything play out this weekend with that? Because I know Madison East had a couple bigger guys, and I know as you get into your conference play, some of these teams are going to have some good-sized guys, and I know you guys will, just from what I've seen out of West basketball, you're going to dogfight it and make it just miserable for them, but size is tough sometimes. So what's your role in how you go up against that size and how you approach it and what you do to maybe make the game a little better for you guys?
Yeah, well, last year I played our 5 spot starting, so that was definitely a big challenge for me. I just had to go down there and just fight nonstop. Yeah. But this year I've definitely had some relief. We've had Nico Federici and Brady Phelps. They are both also playing for us, and they've definitely taken a lot of pressure off me having to guard those big guys. And but it's been very nice. My role right now, I guess, is kind of a power forward, kind of that wing guy that looks inside and just looks to drive. But sometimes I do get in that 5 spot, and especially when I have to guard there, I definitely have some moves that I've learned over the years guarding that 5 spot as kind of a smaller guy. Just really using my legs and getting into them with my knees, and just being quick into that ball. And but
it's always fun when you win the war and you're not supposed to because you're not, because the bigger guy's supposed to win and he doesn't.
Yeah,
cool.
Again, we're talking to Bennett Madsen from Wausau West here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. You mentioned a couple of names of your teammates, and again, it just felt like watching your team on Saturday. There were so many guys that were able to step up and to be able to be contributors. Who else, as you lean on, who else as you look out there and maybe lean on in a certain situation for your team? Because again, it's not a case where I think an opponent can look at one player and try to slow him down. There's a lot of kids that can step up. Who else are keys for the Wausau West Warriors and the success for this year?
I mean, first you obviously have Griffin Lang. I mean, he's like my best friend. So we've been playing basketball together for a while, so we have a really good connection. So it's always fun to go out on the court and play with him. But I mean, you saw at the end of the first half of that Madison East game, he just took control. Screen got set for him. He weaved through 2 guys and was able to get the ball out to me. And so, he's definitely able to dictate the court and really has great court awareness, can get to the hoop. So he's an awesome player to have next to you. And then Marcus McDonald, He's a great defender, great at getting to the hoop. It's always nice to kick it out to him and him attack the baseline and get us a score. And then, but yeah, we have a pretty deep bench this year, so it's nice to take some wear and tear off some guys and get some other guys in, and yeah.
One other thing about this group that, again, it's early, obviously, but I've seen a number of you guys perform previously. There's not selfishness. I don't sense any kind of selfish play out there. Sometimes it almost feels like some of you guys should take a little bit more selfishness because I think you're all great team players. But is that the sense as well, that you know that you can pass the ball to one of your teammates? It's not going to become a black hole, correct?
Yeah, so with that, it's just trust. We all just have a lot of trust in each other. And as I mentioned earlier, we're all very good friends. So if something were to go bad, we can hold each other accountable and know everything's going to be okay. And I think another piece to this, too, is none of us are really looking to play like D1 basketball or really trying to get ourselves out there. So in that sense, we're more willing to give up the ball and let other people score and not be the highlight player, because we know that we're just looking for the win and looking to have fun and have a positive experience.
And looking, coaches are going to tell you, like we talked with Coach Garrett, take one game at a time and not get too far out. But Chad and I have talked a number of times about how deep the valley seems to be. There's no night off. There's just good teams waiting around the corner for whenever you play anybody, and this team can beat this person. And I know you have, correct me if I'm wrong, Eau Claire North next Friday.
This Friday,
and then your place Spash is the next conference open on December 13th. So you got some time in there. What do you think about you've had your time, you've spent in it. You probably have your rivals, your places you don't want to play, your places you can't wait to play, certain individuals you can't wait to play against, or it's going to be a tough night playing with them because they're just a good opponent. What's your take on the Valley? Because from top to bottom, I think it's a war, and it's probably deeper than it ever has been. So what's your take on the Valley a little bit this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. It's going to be one of the toughest years I think that we've had in the Valley. And I mean, even last year was tough. And then we have a bunch of people that were juniors returning as seniors, along with Wausau West. And yeah, that just makes for a lot of heavy competition. Like you said, it's going to be a dogfight. I think every single game, there's going to be no days off.
Do you have a favorite opponent in that conference you like to mark on the calendar that you like to play against every year?
I mean, you can't you can't be from Wausau West and not want to beat Wausau East. So obviously, they took us down pretty hard last year, and so we're looking to come back and take it to them this year.
I'm on the same lines. It's always interesting to talk about those rivalries because obviously that's the obvious one, West and East. But when West plays Everest, there's kind of a different feel to it, both in football and in basketball. How do you compare when you play East as compared to playing Everest?
Well, I mean, East doesn't have as big of a population as Everest, so when we play Everest, and it's another one of those crosstown rivals, but I wouldn't say it's as big as East. The gym gets packed, and so there's a lot of energy, and that's always very fun to play in. But yeah, I'd say those two are very similar, but I'd say East comes out a little on top as a bigger opponent and a team that we want to take down a little more.
Let's step away from the basketball for a moment. What's your favorite class in school?
I'd have to say my favorite class is probably our marketing classes. We have a really good marketing department at West, and so all those classes are
Well, who's your favorite teacher?
I'd have to go Mr. Hurt from the marketing department.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas on maybe where you will be going to school next year? Is that your plans to continue going to school?
Yeah. I'm still waiting on a couple of responses from colleges, but right now, I mean, UW-Madison, it's always fun to go there. I've grown up there my whole life, and so that's probably number one on my list. But yeah,
you have a brother that I remember watching.
Yeah.
How does having somebody that's sort of gone through the process of being athletically inclined and going through maybe some of the same steps that you have, was that something that's helped you in terms of your success in athletics at Wausau West?
For sure. He's always pushed me to be better. There's always friendly banter between us. And, but throughout the years, he was a senior, I was a freshman, and we'd come home during the summer. We'd play one-on-one basketball in the lawn, throwing the football, and he's always kind of been a big role model for me and taught me how to go through life. And so, I gotta definitely thank him for where I've gone and where I continue to go.
Where's Will right now?
He's at UW Madison.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. When you you busy multiple sport athlete, interested in some of your classes, it gets busy. I mean, it's nonstop from what I see out of student athletes around the area. What do you like to do to get away or do something different? What's your extra hobbies, extra interests?
Well, during the winter, I love to ski, and it's hard because it's a little wear and tear on my body. But
Your coaches must be
I
holding
was just
their
gonna say,
breath.
is Coach Lemon's okay?
I
Go
just,
ahead, kid.
we live right on the ski hill, so I can just walk right through my backyard and hit the slopes, and so that's definitely a lot of fun. A lot of my friends ski, so we'll meet up there and go for about 2 or 3 hours, and it's just a nice getaway. Maybe put my AirPods in and listen to some music and clear my mind. Yeah.
How do you balance your time? Because as you said, you're a 3-sport athlete. You obviously are good in the classroom. You have a lot going on. What have you learned? Maybe is there anything that in particular that maybe has helped you in terms of trying to balance your time to make sure that you have the balance that you need as you go through these very important years in your life?
Yeah, my parents have been really supportive. They definitely they give me any help that I need, and I'm very thankful for them. But I think the main thing for me is just prioritizing and definitely putting school first, and then the basketball, and then a big thing for me is just getting 8 hours of sleep every night. And even if I'm not done with my homework, I get 8 hours because I know that I can finish it the next day during my off time, and but that's just always been a big thing for me, just getting sleep.
Do you have, nothing gets held against you here, do you have a favorite sport? There's one way out heavier than the other, but no judgment by anybody here.
I think it really depends on who I'm playing with.
Yeah.
I mean, as of right now, I'd say football is my favorite sport, but I guess we'll have to see how this season goes and how it plays out.
When you say who you're playing with, are you talking about teammates?
Yes.
Who are your favorite teammates? And again, that's probably an unfair question. But not favorite, but maybe some of the guys that just make it more fun. I mean, it doesn't even have to be the guys that are always on the field with you, but it's obviously it goes a long way towards it. But guys that, that it just makes it more fun.
Yeah. Like I said, Griffin Lang, he's one of my best buds, and so it's always fun to take the court with him. And then Will McCorson during football, he just brings a nice, fun energy to the field, and he's a great leader, and so it's always fun to play next to him. Or I guess on the outside of him because he's playing line. But
he's right in the middle of the line this year.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. But I'd say those two are definitely the two that I look forward to spending the most time with when I'm out on the court of the field.
I got one more basketball one for jumping back into it with Eau Claire North on Friday. Obviously, some of the Valley teams have already, you look at scores sometimes, of how you do against the same teams for similar opponents. For maybe conference results, you want to kind of get a little pecking order as best you can. Have you guys looked at Eau Claire North a little bit?
Yeah.
So what do you think's going to come out of that game? What are you going to see out of them? And then what do you think maybe as you evaluate your guys' play, what do you got to do well on Friday to take that game?
Yeah, well, after watching film, they have a very good shooter. He's very quick. And so we've been really practicing on getting a quick hand out to him and just getting through all those screens that they set for him. And then offensively, like I mentioned, we're just really focusing on getting into our actions and slowing things down, breaking them down. And then I think a big thing for us is a lot of times we try not to miss instead of trying to make it, And I think we just got to be aggressive on the offensive side and get to the hoop and, just take the win.
Do you have any goals for this season basketball-wise?
Same with football, just have fun. It's my senior year, and I'm just trying to make the best of it with my teammates.
Anything else, Jeff?
I'm good if you want to go to the last one.
Yeah, let's go to the last
Go
one.
ahead.
We always ask our student-athlete guest one question to wrap it up. Obviously, you've been through it. You've been through it in multiple sports, so you've had the experience. For a younger teammate, maybe somebody who's a freshman who's just joining the program at the varsity JV level, just part of the program, obviously. Based on what you've learned, what piece of advice would you give a younger teammate that's just starting their journey that you're getting closer and closer to crossing the finish line with?
I just say have energy and always be willing to go out there, take the rep, and just really make every moment count because, looking at me as like a 6 foot, 180 pound center, especially last year. I just I didn't take any reps for granted, and I was always working to try and get ready for all those games where I had to guard some of those bigger opponents. And so, yeah, just for those underclassmen, I'd say just get in there, make every rep count, and take advantage of the moment.
What will you miss most about high school athletics when your graduation stops? It's going to end it for everybody. So what will you miss most that you logged so many hours, whether it's running track, playing football, doing basketball?
For me, I'd say I love to lift, and so for me, I think one of the big things I'm going to miss is just having a goal as to where I want to be physically, and then obviously the friendships that I've made. You can't take that for granted, and so yeah.
Bennett Matson, Wausau West Warriors senior, on the hardwood right now. Thanks again for stopping on by. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Rest of the way. We're going to come right back. We're going to talk a little more basketball, talk a little bit of hockey, look ahead to some of the big matchups this week as well. All coming up here on the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
The WIAA admits a football playoff qualifying error, plus changes could be coming to football playoffs. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells. You may have heard of Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells, one of the country's premier destinations for youth sports and events, but did you know that Just a Game does so much more? Just a Game also delivers end-to-end apparel, equipment, and event solutions. With their state-of-the-art screen printing and embroidery facility, they can help with branding for your team and business items, including uniforms, apparel, and more. Just a Game also offers digital services that include a cashless digital platform and event live streaming. Just a Game has also added a second brand new facility in Reedsburg. Find more information at justagame.com. At meetings Tuesday at Madison West High School and Greenfield High School that featured coaches, players, and administrators, WIAA Executive Director Stephanie Hauser acknowledged the association erred in its application of tiebreakers for football playoff qualifying, improperly leaving out both teams. The admission comes after controversy arose when the football playoff qualifying released the day after the final regular season games did not include Madison West or Greenfield, while Edgewood and Pewaukee were included, it turns out erroneously, due to the misapplication of a tiebreaker. This despite others, myself included, alerting the WIAA it appeared they had made a mistake. While somewhat unrelated, just a day later, the Wisconsin Football Coaches Association released a proposal that would change how football playoffs work for qualifying, regional groupings, and seeding. Under the plan, which will work its way through the WIAA committee process for possible vote in early February, teams would be awarded points for wins, with more points assigned the higher the division of the opponent. Divisional placement would be done before the year, and teams would qualify within their own division. Adding in points from opponents defeated would result in a final score that would be used to get into the postseason and seed teams within the brackets. Get more details at WisSports.net. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. Again, K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and great to talk to, again, a couple of our area folks involved in high school athletics, Dan Garrett from East, and then Bennett Matson from West. I like when we have one person from East and one from West. It makes nice and equal, and then we'll get Everest in. We had Everest last week, so it's all good. But again, Bennett was terrific. Dan was great, and it's always it's better than hearing us babble, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely 100 times. Well, it's just neat how they get to showcase their programs and show the great things that us as spectators don't get to be part of and don't get to see. The inner makings of the locker room, what's going on at practice, why this is a big deal when we might just be like passing, we're sitting back in the stands and passing whatever we feel we know. And so it's really neat to see. I love the process of the way what they share that's special about it, how it gets to be built to a certain standard that they want it to be. And I think that's neat to have those thoughts and opinions shared from the players and coaches.
We got a little more to talk about with the girls. We talked about the Valley and the GNC. Merriwood South, you got Assumption still leading the way. They're 2-0 in the conference. They're 4-0 overall. Auburndale, undefeated, 1-0, 3-0 overall. Stratford, undefeated, 1-0, 3-0 overall. Marathon, 1-1, 2-1 overall. Newman, 0-2, 0-3 overall. Edgar, 0-2, 1-3 overall. Nothing surprising there. I think that Assumption is coming in as the big favorite. Auburndale's has been a very solid program. They had a tight one last night. They beat Almond Bancroft 52-47. Lily Belanti at 18, Kylie Anderson 10 for Auburndale. But you got Stratford winning a non-conference game last night, 43-28. They always seem to be putting up low numbers against their opponents. That's a solid program as well. But I think Auburndale, and it's going to be interesting. I think that they face off in the next week, which we'll talk about later on. But it looks like the top of the conference. And I had a chance to see Marathon on Monday when they beat Edgar 44-26. Of course, we had Miley Halke on a couple of weeks back. She had 18 points in that game for Marathon, and it was not the prettiest game, I'll say that much, but right now Marathon is holding their opponents down, and every game they played, 3 games in a row, their first halves have not been great, but they played much better second halves. They were up by 2 on Monday. They win by 18. They outscored Stratford in the second half in their second game, and they outscored Loyal 32-3 in their first game. So Jeff Schneider's team, he's got to get them out there before the game starts and get them warmed up. But I think the Merriwood South, again, looking like it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you start with Assumption, you're going to have that consistency in what they've built off their state champion teams. And right now it's a little tough to tell because some of the teams are playing, they've obviously got the handle on they've been blowout games. So I want to see when they roll around and have Auburndale, who's also playing well and have had a couple tighter ones, and we'll see how that all plays out when they have that matchup. I think it's on Tuesday.
Yes, it is.
And Stratford always, you're right. They have this day where they're a fairly tall team, and they seem to they're good scoring in the 40s and keeping people below 30, yes. And they're winning, and they're 3-0, and they're getting, some points out of a couple of their girls where they're scoring in the 20s consistently, and for Marathon, more of the same, hanging around, being that team that maybe not picked right away to be up in the top echelon of that conference, but somebody I think can be a surprise here and do some modes where they creep up on people and they don't give them an easier game, and they get that team to make some mistakes and they take it away from it at the end, especially if they're going to be that second half team. That's kind of the way you do it.
What did you think about Newman last night?
I thought they battled. Newman, has things that they start from a program where this year they're just trying to get girls on the floor,
yeah.
And they have a couple girls they're trying to get healthy. I see a good resiliency there. I told Coach Clausius this morning when I saw him that I really thought his girls played hard. They have some mistakes, obviously, as a coach that you're going to work through to get them to be consistent scorers, but it got down to Merrill. If I remember correct, when I came in the gym, at some point it was 30-15 or 32-15, and they crept back in, and the final score was 49-43.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, it changes. An amazing thing when you start putting the ball in the basket. It's something so simple, but the minute those shots start dropping, or you get the other team on the back of their heels and you're getting shots closer to the basket, and they're getting more consistent, and the team's playing backwards on the back of their heels, I should say, it makes a big difference. And that's what I saw from Newman. They got some things they have to tweak in terms of the scoring department, but definitely some things I think Clausius can build off of and maintain that consistency, especially when he has different players playing that it's not the same lineup you had last year, and you didn't lose some players due to graduation. They just had different choices they made on which sports they want to play this season. So that's a whole new ballgame when you roll into a season with that. So I think they're seeing some very good things out of those Newman girls.
And Newman at Athens tomorrow night, both the girls and the boys. So it'll be a doubleheader tomorrow starting at 5:35 for the pregame, 5:45 for the girls tip, followed by the boys right here on 98.9 WXCO. Merriwood North. I'm sure you remember, because I remember as well, when Rib Lake was a powerhouse in girls basketball.
You couldn't get in the gym.
I know.
You showed up late, even if you're the radio guy.
I know. It was crazy, but they're off to a really good start. They're 4-1, 3-0 in the conference. Phillips, who's been very good in recent years, different names, but they're still winning, 3-0, 2-0 in the conference. Prentice and Athens are 1-1 in the conference, both 500 overall. Shawamigan and Abbotsford looking for their first wins, and Rib Lake beat Flambeau Monday. Remember when Flambeau was always the team? Yeah. They won winning state championships. Rib Lake beat Flambeau. Talk about two schools that have small gyms. I don't know. Have you ever been to the Flambeau gym?
Yep, one time. I don't want to go back there.
They actually had a room where people were watching closed circuits because they couldn't get everybody in the gym. Yeah. But Rib Lake beat Flambeau 78-28 Monday, and then last night beat Abbotsford 74-18. Phillips beat Grantsburg 66-24 last night. But I'm kind of curious to see how good this Rib Lake team is, because it's always nice to see somebody kind of come out of where they have not been the top team in that conference for a while. I'm curious to see if they're able to battle Phillips at the top of that league.
You know what Rib Lake has on Friday in their crossover?
Who does Rib Lake?
Here, I'll talk while you find that, because Phillips has
Edgar.
Phillips has Assumption.
They should win that game.
So that's kind of what I wanted to see, where Phillips stands this year against Assumption.
Yeah,
that should be a
they've
good
had
battle.
some good battles last few years.
And Assumption has to go up there, which is just another trek up. So Rib Lake should beat Edgar on Friday. But from what you've seen and what we've talked about, and it's going to be interesting to see.
But again, you don't know how these teams are playing either. So it's like it's so early; it's hard to make judgments.
But there is some consistency there that we haven't seen out of that program since those days, like you said, where the gym was being sold out. It's packed, and it's the way it should be. So congratulations on them for a good start.
CWC East got into conference play last night with 4 games, and all were won by the road team, which was interesting. Wittenberg-Burnhamwood beat Manawa 71-41. Rory Salvis 19. Elena Granquist 18 points, 13 rebounds. Harper Rogowski and Ava Bree had 11 for the Chargers. Amherst beat Iola Scandinavia 51-31. Alexis Wierspa 22. Olivia Davis 13 for the Falcons. Bonduel won at Wyowega Fremont 55-28. And Shiocton made it a sweep for the road teams 41-26 over Menominee Indian. So Whitburn now 3-0. And you got Bonduel at 3-1. Amherst now 2-2. It's been an interesting Amherst. They got beat badly in those 2 losses, but they won the other 2 games. But Whitburn, again, I've said this before. I think I've said it every week since you've been here. It's going to be, I think, a girls basketball team that has that potential for doing some special things.
Right, and I think you're going to see a similar pattern out of last year. They have a tough, like when Coach was on last year at the end of last season, he was describing how the conference wasn't necessarily easy, but they had certain expectations out of it, and then they get into their playoff play where they got the Wrightstown and some of those other teams that we don't see a lot, and it's a difficult division and a road to get down to that state. So I'm sure they're kind of, as Coach Garrett was talking about with the East, just kind of like, these are our expectations now, and we're going to go uphold them. It's not that we have to be convinced about it anymore. And I think with Selvison and Granquist and the rest of the supporting cast, they have some girls that could put the ball in the basket. And Coach talked last year about their unselfish play, and I want to see them in that next step, because I think they're going to do really well in their conference, and there's going to be that push game that you got another team that did really well in their conference coming down in those sectionals, and can they get through that? Because that's the next mark that they want to do to get into those state games in March.
And I know folks have been waiting more than an hour and a half for us to get to the hockey.
We're moving on to wrestling, folks. Just kidding. Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that either, because that's very popular as well. But hockey, and look at the Wisconsin Valley Conference, and on the boys' side, last night was the first conference game, and I was in Marshfield for it as the Wausau West Warriors defeated the Marshfield Tigers by a score of 9-1. It was an impressive night for Xander DeBile. He had a hat trick. Cooper DePoit had 2 goals for West. The Warriors now 2-1 overall. Last weekend, I was over in Eau Claire. Friday night, it was a great game. Went to double overtime. Eau Claire Memorial beat the Warriors 3-2. A power play goal in the second overtime gave Memorial the win. And then the Warriors bounced back on Saturday. They scored 5 first-period goals, defeated Superior 5-3. So, again, a really solid start for Wausau West. Also a very solid start for DC Everest. The Evergreens are now 2-0. Last night, they went up north and defeated the Lakeland Thunderbirds by a score of 4-2. Thomas Passano and Cole Van Slyke had 2 goals each for DCE. Griffin Bonnell had 23 saves as well for the Evergreens. And I think Thomas Passano Fassino is somebody we had on the show last year. I'm sure we'll have again. Cole Van Slyke, the son of the coach. He's been playing for a couple of years as well. So Griffin Bonnell, really, really good goaltender. So I'm very impressed. I think DC Everest will be in there with Stevens Point and Wausau West. Panthers had a non-conference win against Bayport last night. 5-1. Jackson Schrader, 2 goals. Spash had a 45-17 edge in shots. So you got Stevens Point 2-0. And got to give a tip of the cap to the EMU Blue Jacks. East Merrill United, 3-1 on the season. They went to Beloit last weekend for a tournament. They lost on Friday 8-5 to the host Beloit Memorial. Then they came back on Saturday and defeated Stoughton by a score of 9-1. And then last night they had quite a wild game. They came from behind, defeated Wapaka 6-4. Zach Poggle had 4 goals for EMU. Chase Klebanow had 40 saves. So again, for East Merrill United, a program that struggled to win a lot of games recently, 3-1 to start off their campaign. So you got West, Everest, EMU, and Stevens Point all off to very good starts. Wisconsin Rapids and Marshfield have struggled early. Wisconsin Rapids now 0-3. They lost to a Tomahawk last night, 7-4, and Marshfield 0-4 overall. And in the Great Northern Conference, you got Mosinee now 1-3 early. Last night they were able to get on the winning track, defeating Houghton of Michigan by a score of 7-3. Elliot Yurkovsky had 2 goals for Mosinee. Other teams in the GNC, I mentioned Tomahawk beating Wisconsin Rapids. They're a team that looks very, very impressive early in that conference. They're 3-0 overall. You got Pines and Lakeland at 1-0, and Medford, Wapaka, and Antigo all struggling at 0-3. Looking ahead on the boys' side in high school hockey, the big game, and in fact, I would say even beyond all the basketball games going on in the next week, the one game that I'm looking forward to the most in area high school sports is next Tuesday night at Marathon Park, Stevens Point and Wausau West for the first time. And it should be a really good game. Stevens Point ranked either. There have not been any rankings this year, but when they do come out, I think they'll be either at or near the top of the state rankings. I like what I've seen from Wausau West early on. I think it's going to be a terrific early season matchup. It'll be in Wausau, and we'll have the game live right here on 98.9 WXCO. I am very curious to see if Wausau West is able to skate with Stevens Point. Stevens Point was a very young team a year ago. They have a lot of kids back. I mentioned Jackson Schrader. He's been a kid that's been going for a couple of years now, and they've got a number of other players as well. But Wausau West, I think this season is very solid between the pipes, as Julian Scalcucci, who's a sophomore, but he is an outstanding goaltender. So I think Wausau West feels very good about the last line of defense. So I think Marathon Park, I hope it's packed. I hope it's going to be a huge crowd. It'll be a fantastic game. It's one of those early games. I mean, we talked earlier about the Lakeland Mosinee game. We got Auburndale Assumption on the girls' side. We have some of these early season matchups in a couple of weeks. East hosting Marshfield on the boys' side, and that hockey matchup is something that I am very much looking forward to next Tuesday night, and we'll get a good feel for Wausau West. We'll get a good feel for Stevens Point, and then, of course, after next Tuesday, next Thursday and Saturday, I'm sure Jeff's got his tickets already for the Marathon Cup, which is always one of the huge events here pre-Christmas in central Wisconsin, with Wausau West, EMU, DC Everest, and Mosinee going after each other over at Green Heck Fieldhouse. So, can you sense I'm getting kind of excited about hockey?
You sound excited.
In fact, I think I'm so excited about hockey that we're going to focus more on hockey next week.
I'll do my best. You will. I won't be here, so you're all good to go. I forgot about that.
BJ Brandt will come in and sit with me, and I'm going to get some hockey guests, get a hockey player and a hockey coach, and we will delve deep into what we learned early in the hockey season.
Well, just so our listeners know, I am respectful I know of hockey. But
I don't want to put you in a bad spot.
Right. I'm not an analyst.
Where you're going to tell me, Stevens Point's going to roll right.
No, I have no idea. I'm open, and I'm for a local fan I hope West wins because I do like it when I get to hear former students' names. I had Xander DeBile as a student.
Oh, really?
Know his mom and dad. So cool to see his success on
that was
the ice.
his best game by far, I think, because he had a hat trick very quickly last night. So, hey, you got the connection even on the rink. There you go. And on the girls' side, Storm off to a very good start so far this season. The Storm won their Gobbler Cup tournament last weekend. They defeated University School of Milwaukee 6-2 on Friday in the semis. Ava Whitmore and Jaden Yurkovsky had 2 goals each. Storm had a 46-14 edge in shots, and then they faced a team that's expected, along with the Storm and others like Bay Area, to be among the best teams in the states, and they again are in the same tournament bracket. So this game was very significant Saturday. The Storm defeated Hayward 3-0. Gabby Heiser had a power play goal and a shorthanded goal in the first period. Jaden Yurkovsky added a shorthanded goal in the second period. Freshman goalie Cami Flora had 29 saves. So, again, a great start for the Storm. And they have another interesting weekend because they go down to Milwaukee, USM, for their tournament. And they had USM and Hayward up for their tournament. USM's there. Hayward's there again. The Storm will take on Arrowhead on Friday, and then they'll take on either USM or Hayward on Saturday, and teams they've already played. It's interesting to see these non-conference opponents, especially if it's Hayward again, where it has significance for the seeding. And last year, the getting to state was the hardest part. I mean, it really was. They had Hayward in the sectional semifinals, and then they had Superior in the sectional championship round. And if they're able to get Hayward again a second time early in the season, that would go a long way towards a top seed when the playoffs get underway, coming up way down the line in February. But I don't know. Have you ever been in a situation where you face the same team back-to-back weeks? I can't imagine.
Well, it's been later at the end of the season, where you finish, where teams that are in your conference are also in your playoff bracket, and you finish that conference game, and then you might get seeded against them and play them right away in the first round. So never fun. But I think if you're talking about jockeying for position, right, you can really be in the driver's seat with that game and that win. So it's kind of neat and stressful all in the same moment.
Right. That's interesting, actually. You haven't been asking about schedules that much this year. Yet.
Yes. We'll talk about that.
Absolutely. Coming up. Well, let's look ahead. Let's talk about basketball for the next week or so. Let's start with the boys, and let me pull up my schedule here. You have some games tomorrow involving Wisconsin Valley Conference schools. See if Marshfield can bounce back. They have a long trek to La Crosse Central. Stevens Point has a trek to Chippewa Falls. Merrill hosting Crandon. Rapids at Holman. Wausau West, as we talked about with Bennett Matson, has Eau Claire North. Again, Eau Claire North playing a Valley schedule because they had Everest and East last weekend. Everest hits the road to Shawano. And interesting game, Merrill at Mosinee. They always tend to play each other in the playoffs. A couple of years ago, remember when Merrill went to Mosinee and had that big playoff win? And then coming up Saturday, Wausau East at Green Bay East. Wanakee at Stevens Point. And then next Tuesday, we mentioned with Coach Garrett, kind of an interesting game with East at Marathon. Everest goes to Medford. That's never an easy place to play. That's actually a very interesting non-conference game. Rapids is at Mosinee. Again, Mosinee facing another Valley team. Merrill is at Northern Pines, and that's the Peeper game.
Yeah, it is.
Former Pines coach, current Merrill coach. So anything in particular when you look at those Valley teams in the next week?
No, I think it's just kind of honing those for all of them, honing in on where you want to be when you start your conference schedules. For the lucky ones.
I'm ready for the conference to begin for the Valley, aren't you?
Well, it always seems to take a long time. So when it's finally here, it's well worth the wait.
Yeah.
But they most of them have only one non-conference game left. A couple of them have two, but, spreading their wing. Lacrosse Central has been tough over the years, so for Marshfield, that'll be a good bounce-back game to see where you stand. Spash bringing Wanakee up, who's always kind of a tough team from down south, and I play them on a Saturday. I think I like the Everest thing where, they go to Shawano Friday, but I like them seeing how they're doing against Medford. Jump out of the conference going against GNC there. For East, I would like to think they're going to be able to take Green Bay East, even though they're going on the road and doing it. And I think, like you said, it's an interesting matchup against Marathon. I like the fact that you've had Everest East and West. They're all going to play Eau Claire North.
I know. It
gives us a comparison based on scores. There's factors involved there, but it gives you a little comparison as a spectator. and for Merrill to play Mosinee, I like that GNC Valley crossover.
Yes, it is, and it's a preview of a conference game for next year because
Right.
Merrill leaving the Valley after this year.
Right.
GNC actually has some conference games on. The Merrill Mosinee game, a non-conference game, but the other teams are all in conference on Friday. You got Medford at Lakeland. You have Antigo at Rhinelander. Pines at Tomahawk. So, again, I think Pines is going to be an interesting team to watch. I'm curious to see how Lakeland, they've always been a solid program, got a new head coach over the last couple of years. The guy who came from Tomahawk.
Yeah, I probably mispronounced his name, but Jerifus.
I know.
It's Jerifasu, something like that. I can never say it. He was a player when I coached. I can't say it right then either.
But it's a program that's had a lot of success, but now it's in a transition. After 2 longtime coaches.
Right.
I mean, of course, they had experience for a lot of years, and then Rhinelander is always going to be tough. They've been kind of stagnant here. They played early. They haven't played in a while. But anything in particular with the GNC and those.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I should mention as well, those interesting non-conference games. A lot of Valley versus GNC games next Tuesday.
Well, again, I like them on Friday, the Mosinee Merrill matchup, because Mosinee always does play physical. They have good-sized kids, and that's what Merrill had the other night when I saw them at Newman. So I think that's going to be a war of physicality, and they've had battles over the years. Rhinelander's interesting to me because they really won. I'm not even sure who they played on November 26th.
It's been such a long time ago.
They played and they jumped back into conference play with Antigo, and then I think they have a kind of a fun one in that they host Wittenberg-Burnham the following Tuesday. For Pines, they went out and beat Hurley on Tuesday, and I think they're going to beat Tomahawk again, and they jump back against Merrill, which would be a fun one. And so I really want to see what those 3 teams, Mosinee, Rhinelander, Pines, are doing after their next 2 games.
And then you have the Merrillwood South, and actually you kind of jumble it with the Merrillwood North because it is that time, the Friday night crossovers.
It's easier for travel.
The Friday nights, yep. So it's a lot of these treks, the crossovers. Marathon at Shawamigan Friday, Assumption at Phillips, Auburndale at Abbotsford, Loyal at Edgar, Stratford Apprentice tomorrow night, Newman Catholic at Athens, and Edgar at Rib Lake. The Loyal Edgar game, not a crossover on Friday. That's a non-conference game as Edgar plays. Finally, they haven't played at all.
No,
they play back-to-back Thursday and Friday.
When you win football state titles, you get a little break.
And then Edgar plays Crandon on Monday, and Auburndale and Columbus on Monday, which is an interesting non-conference game. And Athens has a crossover at Stratford on Tuesday. But when you look at the Merrillwood South/North, it's always interesting to see because those South teams know they really can't afford to stub their toe in these crossovers.
Right. Well, and a couple of them, for some of their schedules, the next game is also a cross. Not everyone, but a couple of them have a double crossover where
Stratford.
they play Friday and play Tuesday. So I think for just let's start with New England because that's where I work. One of their things in there is tomorrow night's kind of a big to get things under.
Well, it's big because I'm there.
Yeah, well,
broadcasting live here at 98.9
I figured that was just assumed.
Okay, there you go.
But I think it's a big deal to kind of continue to figure out where they are and who they are because the injuries, different lineups, and get some consistency in that. For Edgar, I want to see, because they won 19 games last year and they're coming off the football state title, and I know the yearbook has them picked last in that conference. I just don't see them. They're physical.
Right.
They've been well coached last year, and they have the same coach back this year, and things are just going to continue. So I think it's time to see where they stand against Rib Lake, who I think Rib Lake's 0-1 in that conference, but 53-37 versus Columbus Catholic. They lost, so we'll see what they're made of. That could be a good starter game for that. And I want to see if can Assumption go up to Phillips on Friday and bounce back a little bit after those 2 losses? Because I still think with the junior class they have, they're not any pushover in that conference, and they're going to be solid. So and continue. You got Stratford, Auburndale, Marathon up there. Continue to see what they can do.
Let's go to the girls. We only have about 5 minutes remaining, so let's go over to the girls and see what's happening in the next week on that side. As again, I'd like to see the Valley start to win some games. I mean, I shouldn't say it nicer, but
it's blunt. It's true.
And I think they need to win some games because I think that these schools have the potential to be, a little bit better in their non-conference before we get to the conference campaign, which begins on Tuesday night, which is very interesting. But you got Wausau West trying to get on the winning track. track, but it won't be easy going to Crandon. That's always a very tough matchup. It's a trek, and I mean, really not easy at all. And West has Chippewa Falls on the road, which should be, I think, again, a game that perhaps you got to target. Try to get a win there before the conference opens on Tuesday when they go to Merrill. That's actually interesting. West at Crandon, at Chippewa Falls, and Merrill. 3 games on the road between now and Tuesday. The other conference games coming up on Tuesday, Wisconsin Rapids at Marshfield. Wausau, East, and DC Everest is actually an interesting game because last season East was able to beat Everest. Everest, I think, wants to make sure that they are able to win the games that you again, you have the teams at the top of the conference, but then you have everybody else where you feel like there's opportunities. And those are opportunities, and I think that East Everest game is rather interesting as well.
Well, and if I had to pick the East Everest game, I like the competitive scores and what we're seeing on paper out of Everest. So and what I'm looking at East,
it's been rough. Scores
are a little tough, and I know they have some numbers things they're working on over there. So I'd like to think that Everest is going to be, winning that war on Tuesday. For a lot of these teams, I think you hit it on the head when you said we just want to see that success be built because it's an area conference that we cover, and I think West doesn't have going on the road for 3 games in a row. You like to play in your home gym; it's home court advantage for a reason, and you get battle tested. You do see what you're made of, and you want to go get a couple of those, like you said, before you get into conference.
And
play.
Those conference games will tell us a lot. The West Merrill game and the East Everest game, I think, will be interesting, and then of course Marshfield playing Rapids. And I think Marshfield looking for their first win yet, even though they played much tougher competition as well.
Right, and nothing's sold on these teams. We've seen some inconsistencies in their play. I mean, Spash has Holman on December 10th, and
Jada Cyber's so good.
Yeah, but just to see these consistencies out of these teams and their non-conference schedules would lead into what they can do in their conference schedules as those open up. I'd like to think that Marshfield Rapids game is going to be interesting because from what you see on paper, Rapids is a little bit on the upswing.
Yes,
Marshfield has their original coach, who I call the original coach because she was there for so long.
Yeah,
and she's come back, so they're never going to be pushed over that way. But just to see where these teams are jockeying for position early on.
Merriwood South has the crossovers coming up on Friday, and then that big one between Auburndale and Assumption coming up on Tuesday night. And again, the Stratford Edgar on Tuesday, Marathon Newman on Tuesday. So it's going to get interesting now in the Merriwood.
Yeah, really quick. I mean, Marathon, we continue to talk about that they're going to, they might have it considered right at the top, but what can they do? Damage along the way. I know Newman's trying to get that first win. Stratford holding their own in some respective scores and keeping teams down. And again, you'll have somebody kind of put themselves out front when Assumption and Auburndale play each other early on.
And, I think, North and Lutheran on the girls' side, they play Gresham Friday. Again, that CWC North is so odd. It's a small conference. It feels like there's big gaps. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if Northern has something going for them.
Let's have a game. We're having a game.
And then you learn something. We got about 90 seconds to go. Going to kind of open it up here for Jeff Gress and his topics of conversation or anything he wants to add that we haven't talked about because the time goes by so very quickly over these couple of hours. How do you want to kind of go with your last minute?
Well, let me ask you this: you were obviously in the gym much more than I, and I would, whether I was listening to the game on the radio or could bring up a game that I had streamed. How do you think the crowds were? We talked a little bit off air. Because I think over the Thanksgiving break we learned a lot. Kids put themselves forth on a lot of things. Families get involved because they're around.
Right.
Were you just
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.